Ready for takeoff.
Zach. Whoa. Working hard on my stump, what's the problem? I ain't had shit to show, being modest. Now it's grams of the wax for my conscience. Bron James in LA, you're on college. I've been jumping on them planes like a hobby. Still moving with the pack like my partners. Just a John on them jets cause we wildin'. But the bowl is a party on the island, moment of silence. So good, get back to the topic. Grew up, it was me and Flocka. Grandma's and Big T, this my mama. I ain't even for the pain when my pots flip. Knew his name, that's it, never bothered. Mom said, you the man, son, you got this. Ever since I found a way to go and pop shit. Hold up, blaze through a whole zip. Took a seat at the table of my first flip. Days in red roof with my first whip. Spent the money with the gang, never post pics. Seen a change in the game, had to coach it. Never let them take my wangs in the mold, bitch. Ever made in a month, nigga. Used to serve him at the minute, just the front, nigga. Goddamn. Had to grow up quick, I made my own rules. Had my first child, got it jumping with music. Can't really hang with nobody who losing. I thought by now that you would go and get it, but I could hardly see niggas this distant. Know you get cropped if you not in the picture. And I made that tag and went got a bag. Shots to the Henny and OG prescriptions, put rebel shit on the map. Took a leap from where I started at. Started ballin' now, I'm Chris Paul and Cass. Got him steady calling for the mold, but I'm on a roll, gotta call him back. And that's all fact.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard. All carry-on items should now be stowed securely, either in an overhead bin or under the seat in front of you. All aisles, exits, and bulkhead areas should now be clear. All electronic devices should now be turned off and stowed, as they may interfere with the aircraft's navigational and communication systems. Once airborne, we'll let you know when you may use approved electronic devices, but note that some items may not be used at any time during the flight. You'll find a list of approved devices in the in-flight information section.
All right, y'all. We got a short one for you today. We're not gonna be before you long. Let's go ahead and get into it. Let's have some fun. Michael done put the nail in the NANOCON coffin.
Something about me, living in a treetop town, out of the city.
Cheers.
Never mind the preachers who get up in that game. I've been thinking lately that it's only in the name of driving the fastest car, being the biggest no one. Buying a fancy home, enjoying it all alone. Wouldn't you rather come up to my treehouse?
Yeah.
Come on.
Calendros is in the treehouse.
When you need an escape, the sweetest dreams it all may come true. Up in my treehouse. When it takes a lot to give and not a lot to take, going 80 miles per hour, one foot on the brakes.
All right.
Good. I thought it was pretty good.
All right. Yeah, fuck it. I love this song. Let's do this one too. Fuck it. This is my shit. Let's do this one. Then we'll get into it.
Oh,
They got me with the playlist.
oh.
They got me.
You have so many relationships in this life, only one or two will last. You're going through all the pain and strife. You turn your back and they're gone so fast. Oh yeah, and they're gone so fast. Yeah. Oh, oh. So hold
Notice how
on
everyone's
to
instrument
the
just sounds
end,
fucking
'cause
perfect.
in the end, they'll be the only ones there.
Including the
When
vocals.
you get old, start
Give the
losing
vocalist
your
their props.
hair. Can you tell me who will still care? Can you tell me who will still care? Oh, yeah. Ba, ba-do-ba-da-ba, do-ba, do-ba-da-ba, do-ba, ba-do-ba-da-ba, do. Oh, yeah. Ba, ba-do-ba-da-ba, do-ba, do-ba-da-ba, do-ba, ba-do-ba-da-ba, do. Oh, yeah. Said, oh, yeah. In a room bop the gong. Yeah. Plant a seed, plant a flower, plant a rose. You can plant any one of those. Keep planting to find out which one grows. A secret no one knows. It's a secret no one knows. No one knows. Ooh, ba, ba-do-ba-da-ba, do-ba, do-da-ba, do-ba, ba-do-ba-da-ba, do. Oh yeah, ooh, ba, ba-do-ba-da-ba, do-ba, do-da-ba, do-ba, ba-do-ba-da-ba, do. Can you tell me? Oh, say you can, but you don't know. Can you tell me? Oh yeah, say you can, but you don't know. Can you tell me? Oh no, say you can, but you don't know. Can you tell me? Oh, say you can, but you don't know. Say you can, but you don't know. You don't know.
It is nice in the goddamn treehouse.
Can you tell me? Say you can, but you don't know. Can you tell me? Oh, say you can, but you don't know. Oh, say you can, but you don't know. Oh yeah, say you can, but you don't know.
So good. All right, let's pause that so that so that don't hit me with something else. All right. All right, so let's jump ahead and get right into it. So first things first, let's define our terms here, because when Michael actually brought this up in the live stream, I think yesterday or the other day, I actually was confused because when he mentioned communal narcissism, I thought he was talking about community narcissism, like how an actual community can take on the traits of a narcissistic, like narcissistic personality disorder, where basically you have toxic communities. And just to give you like the brief overlay of that is the case that I try to make about community narcissism is basically this toxic community. Anytime you have a toxic community, you can think of the church, right? It is going to attract narcissistic personalities. Everybody familiar with churches and how they attract people who want to be favored and elevated, usually undeservedly, right? Just by pretending to humble themselves and all that type of shit, right? So you attract narcissistic personalities. Then, because of the social dynamics that exist in a toxic community, narcissistic type of personalities get elevated. So what that means is you have now two things happening. Since it elevates narcissistic personalities, that means the people in positions of power, the people in positions of prominence, the people leading organizations are more likely to have narcissistic traits, right? Because that's who is elevated in a toxic community. And then it's attracting narcissistic personality. So people who are narcissistic that are not in the community already are going to be attracted and see opportunity within this community. And then because of that, it then creates social pressure where everyone else is caught in this situation, in this toxic community that keeps attracting narcissistic personalities and keeps elevating narcissistic personalities. Now you have narcissistic people in power and control. So what eventually happens, the whole community itself, the viewers, the subs, the patrons, everybody that is supporting this community, in various different ways, actually participates themselves then in the narcissistic behavior. They demonstrate a lack of empathy. They demonstrate delusions of grandeur. They, prioritize unity over accountability, right? They start wanting to protect the people in power. They want to maintain their parasocial relationships that they've become comfortable with, even if those people are behaving badly and harming marginalized people, right? Like, so it's the way in which the whole community takes on narcissistic behavior, right? Because of the way the community is structured. All right, now that you understand that, that is not what the fuck Michael was talking about. Nope. You can call the thing I was just mentioning community narcissism or narcissistic community, right? That's a different thing. Michael was talking about communal narcissism. And communal narcissism, notice we have it up on the screen for you, is a personality style where individuals seek validation and a sense of superiority by positioning themselves as exceptionally helpful, caring, and altruistic. Unlike traditional narcissists who boast about power or intelligence, communal narcissists inflate their self-worth through acts of charity, community activism, or moral martyrdom. Sit with this definition one more time. Communal narcissism is a personality style where individuals seek validation and a sense of superiority by positioning themselves as exceptionally helpful, caring, and altruistic. This next part is also very key, even though it's not highlighted. Unlike traditional narcissists who boast about power or intelligence, communal narcissists inflate their self-worth through acts of charity, community activism, or moral martyrdom. Think about how much in this community you see people get elevated and get put in positions of prominence, right? Based on their persona, right? That demonstrates what? Charity, community activism, moral martyrdom. That's basically the formula for success in this online secular atheist space. So it's a real systemic issue. Now, here's the mask, or what we call the mask in, dealing with traditional narcissists. It says the altruistic illusion, right? It's a form of masking. The altruistic illusion. At first glance, communal narcissists appear to be ideal coworkers, partners, or community members. However, their helpful behaviors are driven by self-interest and a deep need for admiration rather than genuine empathy. So they do performative generosity. This is like my mother too. I just had to be so for real with people. This is my mother. So like everything here, like first off, y'all gotta understand something. Me and Michael is not out here calling people names. No one really on this side is. When we are talking about narcissism and antisocial personality disorder and shit like that, we are mostly coming from a place where we're sincerely trying to educate people about these patterns of behavior. But we're also speaking from lived experience and having to have learned about these things in order to survive them. Michael sort of growing up in an abusive household where he had to deal with disordered personalities. And for me and other people, it's like you deal with a narcissist ex, or I was in a relationship with a narcissist. And then when I got out of that relationship, because my psychiatrist is actually the one who told me I was dealing with narcissistic abuse, I did not know what I was going through. I was suffering. I was confused. I was miserable. And I did not know why this otherwise, fine relationship that seemed like on the outside, like it should have just been perfect and everything should have been going well, especially really early on in the relationship, why all of a sudden after that period where everything was going fucking perfectly was this person treating me so poorly to the point that I literally was just miffed and baffled and literally like venting my frustrations to my psychiatrist, right? And so my point is that like this wasn't me again trying to call somebody names. This was a psychiatric professional, somebody whose care I was under, caring about me and saying, you need to understand what you're dealing with. And based on what I'm hearing, the way you're describing this person's behavior, this is in fact what it sounds like you're dealing with. And so then I had to get a whole education of what narcissism really is. Because I grew up watching pro wrestling. So we had the narcissist. Like Bobby Heenan couldn't pronounce it correctly, right? So he would always call them the narcissist, the narcissist, Lex Luger, right? And so then we would kind of realize Bobby Heenan was mispronouncing it, and it's the narcissist, Lex Luger, right? But that's what they call the narcissist. So, and that's what it was, right? He was super muscular. I should show y'all Lex Luger real quick for those that aren't wrestling fans. Let me first just show you Lex Luger, right? So here's prime, I guess we'd call this prime Lex Luger as a, and so this is him from, oh, see, this is actually after the narcissist phase. See, that's him even actually older. This is him when he was younger, right? Just an unbelievable specimen. I think he was a Penn State guy, actually. Penn State and maybe Miami or something like that. And then, broke out into wrestling after his football career. And so then when he went to the WWE, he eventually became the Lex Express, all-American good guy when they were trying to replace Hulk Hogan. But originally he was the narcissist. Right? And you could see the muscles, right? So they'd have all these like women come out with these mirrors, right? And he would be in the mirrors doing like pose downs, and then Bobby Heenan would be, oh, look at the size of that chest. Look at the size of his arms. I mean, right? So they just be going, Bobby Heenan would be on and on and on just about, all of the musculature in his physique while he's in front of these mirrors that these women are all holding up. And there's like fireworks, like pyrotechnics coming out of the mirrors and shit. Right. So it was a crazy presentation. But to us, that's what a narcissist was, right? Is, a person who I guess we get it, like they're not very nice. They're kind of an asshole. They're kind of full of themselves, and they've got this, epic, larger than life physique or beauty or fame or whatever it is that makes them so obsessed with themselves. And in many ways, my ex fit that description. She was absolutely drop dead gorgeous. No question about it. One of the most beautiful women I've ever been around. And very, very wealthy and comes from a very, very prominent family. Definitely had a lot of very, very real lived experience to legitimize that sort of self-image. But those who learn about narcissism understand very well that people like that, they say there's like the sort of the depraved narcissist, sort of the narcissist who grow up lacking security, right? The narcissist who grow up without their basic needs being met. And that lack can cause trauma that can contribute towards narcissism, right? But then there's the other side of the spectrum where you have people who are exceptionally beautiful and come from rich and powerful family. They're more like the spoiled narcissist, right? The narcissist who grew up with a silver spoon in their mouths and had everything given to them, and then that created their overinflated sense of being greater than everybody else, right? They say that those are the worst type of narcissist, right? be lucky if your life gets fucked all the way up by a narcissist who comes from humble beginnings. Because the thing that's really gonna fuck your life up is if you have your life turned upside down by a narcissist who comes from extreme wealth and privilege. And I had the misfortune of dealing with that latter category. So it's a survival thing, and I say all that to just give people a little bit of the background to understand that, like, we're not out here calling people names. Like I said, we're not out here just calling people narcissists to make ourselves feel better or to say that they're assholes. We have had to go from the cartoonish, usually kind of naive, kind of layman's kind of everyday use of terms like narcissism or psychopath or psychopathy or antisocial personality, like the way people use those things on social media or in movies and on TV and in shows, and sort of the way they get thrown around in pop culture. We're not doing that here. We are trying to tell you, as people who've had to learn about narcissism so they could survive it, that this is what you're dealing with. And why it's so important, like why I'm belaboring this point so much when really Michael just gives us the benefit of a short kind of 5-6 minute YouTube video for us to go over today, is because it's really, really important that people understand this. It's really, really important that people understand that this is real. People want to talk about my mental health. Fine, let's put it out there. I'm bipolar. So are lots of people out here. But understand what bipolar is. Bipolar is a mood disorder. And yes, bipolar people can be difficult and can certainly have challenges when it comes to life and career and executive functioning and maintaining a gainful employment, living on their own. There are many bipolar people who are not fortunate to be high functioning, and even a lot of them are constantly institutionalized and, very lucky if they can just, not be in a goddamn psych ward. And, my own journey has taken me through phases of institutionalization. And certainly I feel lucky to have, stabilized to the point where I haven't been institutionalized in quite some time. But I'm very well aware that that's a reality for people like me, especially if things get unmanaged, which is why I manage things so diligently. But I'm talking 20 years into the game of dealing with this, not 2 years into the game. But the main things that somebody like me who's relatively managed, I always say there's like the 5 things I always got to do. You got to eat every day. Every day you got to eat, sleep, take your meds. People can get real caught up in how you do those things, when you do those things, and all that bullshit. But at the end of the day, you got to eat, you got to sleep, you got to take your meds, because the hypomania is going to make you be able to go all day without eating. And then it's going to make you feel like you can rock all night without sleeping. And you're going to feel like you're feeling great and you're doing good. So why do you need to take medication? So you have to lock in cognitively and make sure that you understand that those things are non-negotiable. The other non-negotiables are you got to see your shrink and you got to see your psychiatrist. You got to see the psychiatrist and you got to see the therapist. Now, for years, I underestimated the importance of therapy because I didn't have some good experiences early on. And eventually I settled on meeting with psychiatrists who could prescribe my medication, who were also trained in therapy, so that I could get through my kind of need to talk to somebody while dealing with somebody who could change my medication if we needed to do that. But, after dealing with the narcissistic abuse situation and getting more serious about my journey, is something I was convicted of, is like, you got to be much more serious about therapy. And even though I still seek out therapists that I can, psychiatrists that I can talk to, it's become really important to me to make sure I'm in therapy. So I think those are the 5 pillars for me. You got to take your meds, you got to eat, you got to sleep, you got to see the psychiatrist, you got to see your therapist. And you have to lock in and do those things, however frequently you need to. That's a very different ball of wax than narcissism. Like, I'm sorry. Like, part of the ignorance that's out here in this community is people want to pretend that, this person over here has panic attacks. This person over here has, some form of autism. They're on the autism spectrum. This person over here has a mood disorder. And this person over here has antisocial personality disorder. And, boom, let's just throw up the big neurodivergence umbrella and say we're all neurodivergent and call it a day. And I'm like, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. Because I'll own my thing. And like I said, if you don't manage my thing, it could get real difficult for your life, your job, your career, your family, your community, your friends, all that shit. So you got to stay on top of it. But if you're on top of it, you got to make sure you eat, sleep, take your meds, see the psychiatrist, see the psychologist. Okay, this person over here has anxiety. Maybe they're dealing with panic attacks, right? They're going to be in a same situation. You got to eat, take your medication every day, make sure you're rocking with your therapist and your psychiatrist, actively manage that thing. Anxiety is tough to deal with. Everybody deals with some level of anxiety, but when your anxiety gets to the point that it's crippling and it's clinical or it's systemic and it's interfering with your life, right? You gotta really proactively manage that. But let's be so fucking for real. Don't put us in the same category as narcissists who fundamentally lack empathy. If you want to be real about mental health, be real about bipolar. Do y'all want to know what one of the aspects of people with bipolar is? Not always, but a lot of times it's actually a heightened sense of empathy. One thing I had to learn early on as a bipolar person was that you will attract depressed people into your life. As a bipolar person, you will attract depressed people. Mental health professionals taught me this. They were like, literally like, you have to be fucking careful because you will attract depressed people into your life. How? Why? Well, one, because you got the hypomania going. You got the high energy, you got the focus, you got the drive, you got the passion, you got the creativity. That's very attractive to people, especially depressed people who are going through shit. You feed them the highs that balance out those lows they're constantly dealing with. But then when it gets flipped and they express their frustrations, they express their pain, they express their sorrows, they really let you in on the things that are contributing and factoring into how they experience their depression. Guess what? Because you're bipolar and you also experience some of that depressive side, because you also struggle, because you also know about those dark days and hard times, you have an unusually high sense of empathy in many cases. So your elevated empathy attracts depressed people who need that. They need your energy and then they need your empathy. And with the bipolar person, they get both. They get the energy from the hypomania and they get the empathy from the person who also understands what it's like to deal with depressive symptoms. So you got to be careful. But if that's the case, if that's what I have to deal with as a bipolar person, you don't get to come over here and tell me I'm in the same club as the Elliot Martins of the world. Again, I'll deal with my mood disorder, but at least the way bipolar works in Jay Bundy's body, yeah, my mood disorder does not manifest as a severe lack of empathy for others. And it certainly doesn't put me on the antisocial spectrum where I just have a complete disregard for the rights of other people, where I'm willing to just wantonly and recklessly do bodily harm to other people and just not give a damn. Now, am I saying I've never hurt anybody in my life? No, I'm not saying that, but I damn sure give a damn. I damn sure I'm not a person who can hurt others and just not give a fuck. And so if I'm going to be honest about my growth and my accountability and how I got to be from the person I was growing up to the man I was as a young man to now who I am staring 40 straight in the face going into the midlife, you got to get so fucking for real about the spectrum of neurodivergence and the fact that it doesn't all look the same. So with that being said, like, let me just jump into these things real quick and then we're going to get into Michael's video. So the altruistic illusion, this is the mask. At first glance, communal narcissists appear to be ideal co-workers, partners, or communal members. However, their helping behaviors are driven by self-interest and a deep need for admiration rather than genuine empathy. And again, I had to learn this about my ex, and then I had to realize this about my mother and my grandmother and a lot of the shit in my family. And I do think, like a lot of people, I definitely grew up with sort of some of these narcissistic traits and tendencies, and definitely thoughts and stuff like that, especially when I look back at like the way I saw the world as a kid and stuff. And I think a lot of that, again, was just the culture and environment that I was raised in. But for whatever reason, my unique personal journey, maybe it's my own mental health stuff, dealing with the bipolar, or my own, trauma and dealing with my own trauma and having to get different sorts of education in my own life journey, I think I did really beat that. Not like it's always gone, but I definitely, grew into a person where I was able to definitely channel a very, very deep sense of empathy. I'm not going to say I've always been that or I've always been perfect. I definitely had periods in my life where I was a fucking asshole and really just didn't give a fuck. Largely because, again, I just hadn't gone through the growth and things like that I have at this point in my life. But this type of thing is really serious to me, and I don't want to keep belaboring the point, but I want people to understand that you have to stop treating all forms of neurodivergence like they're the same, and you really have to stop pretending that you don't have these disordered personality types out here, and you also have to stop pretending that that it's all good, that these people aren't significantly more dangerous than the average bear. You're just not dealing in reality. If you're going to be a skeptical community, if you're going to claim you're critical thinkers, if you're going to claim you're going to support science, then deal with the science, because science tells you these people are real. These patterns and traits of behavior are well understood by psychiatric professionals, and these people are very, very, very fucking dangerous. Now, if you're not going to take up that mantle and take it seriously, then just shut the fuck up and stop pretending. But don't cosplay as a serious person and then not take the threats of the Elliot Martins of the world seriously. And again, if you want to run around and toss around speculation about my mental health, and then y'all are gonna all get together to make sure the whole community knows to not listen to me and to avoid me because I'm a danger to the community and I'm gonna get somebody hurt. Okay, cool. I see that. But are y'all ready to talk about Elliot now? I get it. Dr. Bundy's dangerous. Stay away from him. He's going to get somebody hurt. And according to rumors, he might even shoot up the next NANOCON. Okay? Fine. Avoid NANOCON. Dr. Bundy's going to shoot it all the way up. He's fucking crazy. He's going to get somebody hurt. But what about Elliot Martin throwing Nancy Vishwanathan down the stairs at last year's NANOCON, sexually assaulting and strangling her? When are you going to talk about that part? Performative generosity. Good deeds are often heavily documented for social media or performed publicly so they can receive maximum praise. The martyr complex. They frequently overextend themselves, complaining about how much they sacrifice, which forces others to view them as indispensable saviors. Guy butters people up like this all the fucking time. Moral superiority. They believe no one else's contributions measure up to theirs and may harshly criticize others for not being as caring or devoted as they are. Come on now. All right, let's go ahead and jump into Michael's video here.
Our guest really shouldn't even need an introduction.
People have patterns of behavior. Nobody ever does anything once.
Okay. NANOCON.ROCKS. NANOCON.rocks.
NANOCON.rocks. That's the website.
And
Michael has it right here on the screen. Elliot's nonprofit was instrumental, per them, in bringing NANOCON back. What he's referring to was a stream that Michael saw where Elliot was talking with, I'm not going to remember the gentleman's name, but he's talking to another guy who helped him start Nashville Nuns. And when they are on this broadcast together, that, and they're talking about how they founded Secular Rising together, that guy says, and we are bringing back NanoCon. When I tell you Michael put the nail in the coffin of NanoCon, that's it. Because this entire time, since December, I have been pointing to speculation about SR's organizing role. Because you have to remember, there's no transparency from NanoCon. There's no transparency from Secular Right. Like, there's no transparency in this fucking fucked up ass community. So it's very difficult to figure out who exactly is doing what. But I'll tell you what we put together really, really quickly. We really, really quickly put together the fact that Elliot Martin has at least one previous victim. And according to that victim, we're pretty sure quite a reputation. Okay. And so, one, we know that there's a pattern. Two, we know he's got very serious substance abuse problems. Other thing we understood really quickly was that he was the worst type of narcissist. He was manipulative, right? All these things we got from the previous victim. Antisocial personality disorder, hypnotizes people in public without their consent, always has to be the center of attention, and literally described as the worst kind of narcissist, master manipulator, okay? So we're concerned about that. Then we realize he's deep in the Nashville scene. He lives in Tennessee. He lives near NanoCon. Okay, so boop, red flag right there. Right? NanoCon, Nashville nuns throw a conference in the Nashville area. And it just so happens Secular Rising, who's one of the event hosts, we knew he was hosting and doing some host-like activities. That led us to say he's likely doing some of the organizing activities, right? Because usually who's going to host the conference is going to be somebody who is connected enough that they know all the players and they're helping organize things and they understand the schedule and who's who. So that it's usually somebody who's involved in organizing the conference, especially when you realize the conference took place in their geographical backyard. Right? Then we knew way back in December the whole time that Elliot was actually involved in all of these in-person meetups. That he's all over social media with Secular Rising, but then he's just all over social media as SR, just in all these different meetup groups. And then he's even working with like local Christian groups. And he's been doing like meetups with like Christian atheist meetup conversation weirdo things. Right? So we're putting all this together, and I've been saying from the beginning, it's not out of the realm of possibility that this man was foundational in organizing this conference. And it's not out of the realm of possibility that he was even part of the decision makers of where this conference was going to be held and where it was going to take place and what location it would be. And if you're going to take the allegations of his predatory and systemic behavior seriously, and again, you don't have to just say that Nancy is the judge, jury, and executioner and everything she says is biblical truth. You can just simply take her allegations seriously, which everybody should, and then take the allegations from the alleged previous victim seriously. And if you take Nancy's allegations seriously and take the previous victim's allegations seriously, you realize you might be dealing with a very serious predatory personality. And then you start to ask yourself questions. Wouldn't predators like to have events at places where if something were to go wrong, or if something were to get out of hand, or if something were to get out of control, certain jurisdictional considerations lean their way? What do I mean? Have it at a state park, because you have it at the state park. Then if there's a crime committed, who responds to it? Park rangers. Who are park rangers? Law enforcement officers, certainly great at their jobs, most definitely, in most cases. But they're park rangers, right? Which means most of their caseload is going to be the type of shit relevant to state parks, not sex crimes. Now, to be honest with you, from what I understand, The park rangers were the primary jurisdiction responsible for the investigation. I believe the investigation for the police side was led by a female who worked for the park rangers. I believe that person believed Nancy's story, thought Nancy was doing the right thing, and seemed pretty confident that Nancy's case was going to lead to some sort of prosecution or charges. Now, could they have been giving Nancy the runaround? Could they have, behind the scenes, unbeknownst to Nancy, been expressing less confidence in her case or something like that? We'll never really know. But it seemed like they were on top of it. It seemed like they did an adequate job. It seemed like they were pretty confident this was going somewhere, and that the disconnect then happened when it got to the prosecutor's office. So I really am not trying to throw the park rangers under the bus. It really seems like the park rangers did actually take this seriously and think it was going somewhere, and then the issue came above their head at the prosecutor's office. But again, I'm not sure of all those details. I'm just telling you what the impression I have at this point based on what I know. And what I know, I don't know. But that doesn't change this point, right? The point is, if the community is going to take it seriously and take the allegation seriously, then you have to take it seriously that you could possibly be dealing with a predatory person, right? And even if SR turns out to not be that predator, based on what these victims have alleged, there's plenty enough to now be hyper vigilant about the possibility of predatory people in this community doing things like this. And now you got to be real concerned that if a predator is organizing the conference, they have outsized power, and that power allows them to pick their goddamn jurisdiction. Simply by saying, I think it'd be great if maybe they just say continued the tradition of hosting it at Montgomery Bell State Park, or, hey, I think this Montgomery Bell State Park place would be great, right? But why not, the conference center at the Holiday Inn in downtown Nashville? Why not at the Hilton across the street from the historic country music venue, whatever, in Tennessee, right? I've never been there. I'm just making shit up, right? But my point is, like, if I were very serious about conference safety and I were an organizer, part of my consideration as a conference organizer concerned about safety would be jurisdiction. It would be saying bad things can happen. And as a conference organizer, I don't really want the responsibility of organizing conferences, but if I have to take on that responsibility for some reason, I damn sure don't want the responsibility for dealing with some crazy shit that pops off, especially if that crazy shit that pops off is potentially criminal or involve potential serious civil liability. Like, that shit's way above my fucking pay grade. So one of the things I want to make sure as a conference organizer is that wherever we hold this conference, when I pick up that phone and I dial 911, there's real fucking professionals on the other side of this goddamn phone. When I hit that 911, boy, I want to know that when they say 911 emergency services, how can we help? I'm talking to the real motherfuckers. So if I was really hyper concerned about safety, I might say, with all due respect, Elliot, we're not going to go to Montgomery Bell State Park. We're going to go with a hotel property or a conference center actually properly in downtown Nashville. Why? Listen, we know everybody that's coming is part of the secular humanist community. We know everybody loves everybody. We know everybody is morally superior to Christians. We know everybody loves women and trans people and black people and gay people and poor people. And we know y'all are all just the best people on the planet, but shit happens. And if shit happens, my black ass who's organizing this conference doesn't want to be responsible for handling the serious shit that just might happen. I know it's probably not going to, but just in case, again, my black ass does not want to be accountable for that. So I say, fuck the bullshit. Let's actually go with the pros. And I'm going to say no to the state park, because I need to make sure there are real cops on the other end of that phone call. Now, again, do I expect all that to happen like that? No. Especially not in this fucking ass community of funky ass fucking amateurs who don't give a shit. But the bigger point again remains. This community needs to get so fucking for real about Elliot Martin's role in organizing NanoCon. And it needs to get so fucking for real about what decisions he had a say in and what the result of his say was. And this communities are asking very specific, very hard questions about his involvement from the beginning. The other thing is, like I said, Michael put the nail in the coffin of NanoCon. The NanoCon shit is over. We're done. There's really nothing else to talk about. Those people have been so thoroughly exposed that they are irrelevant. Nothing the Flying Monkeys can say or do from here on out fucking matters a lick. Why? Because the conflicts of interest are so fucking obvious. This man's fucking organization said, we are bringing back NanoCon. And right now, the organization that he founded, Secular Rising US, remains a pivotal sponsor of NanoCon. And they said, we are bringing back NanoCon. And then he is the event host and one of the organizers, and it's taking place in his fucking backyard. Then after the allegations come forward, the internal investigation is handled by his friends and people hired by NanoCon, which is hosted by the organization he fucking started. This is so much more of an obvious and direct systemic failure and conflict of interest that it literally humbles anything coming out of a church. At least churches have long histories of their ministries and long histories of the shit going on in their organizations. And typically a pastor ends up in a position of power with no connection to fucking any of that. And then they do some fucked up shit from their position of power from there. But this is a situation where this motherfucker literally founded the goddamn church, picked where the goddamn services in the damn the congregation was going to be held, organized the goddamn event, hosted the goddamn shit, abused the fucking person, and then everybody covered it up and elevated him and talked about him as a community builder and a secular, and you should take a secular leadership classes because he's the secular Jesus Christ. Like, I'm sorry, it's over. I know they want to debate and I know they want to go back and forth and I know they want to make it like there's two sides, but this is fucking over. If you cannot see the obvious conflict of interest and the obvious corruption, the obvious immorality, and the obvious fucking cover up, you're not worth our time. You're not even worth engaging with anymore. This is simply to document this so that the people who give a fuck, the people who live in reality, the normal goddamn grown-ups in the room can see 100,000% that Nancy was telling the truth. Nancy and Patti have been standing on business since day one, and this was obviously some fucked up conflict of interest, corrupt ass cover-up bullshit from the jump. There's just no arguing anymore. It's over. It is 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 over. And all these people are simply too delusional and too narcissistic to admit that they've lost, because that's part of narcissism, is you never admit you're wrong. You never admit you're the problem. That's an indicator of their narcissism. It is not an indicator that they're right. It is not an indicator that there's two sides to this. It is further indication of their narcissism. It is just confirmation that they sincerely are disordered personalities themselves. All it is confirmation that they themselves are on the narcissism spectrum, the antisocial personality spectrum, the dark triad spectrum, throw in the Machiavellianism, right? That's who they are. Whatever the fuck they got to do to stay above water and maintain the fucking cover up in the bullshit. But for everybody with fucking eyes to see ears to hear and a brain to put shit together and connect the dots, you can see how obvious this fucking cover up is. It is fucking over. It's over. It's done. It's over. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Michael, for this confirmation of what we have suspected all along. And Michael did the dirty work of going into the archive and listening in and figuring out and watching all of these interviews and appearances, because I'm sure like me and most of us, he was outraged at how much these people platformed him. And he wanted to go through and really understand what their platforming of him has looked like. Well, he dug far enough back into the archives, back into February in 2025, found him streaming with Gary Parker last year before NanoCon and confirmed it. Boom. There it is, on record, on air, forever. Elliot letting everybody know his organization is the one to bring back NanoCon. Thank you so much, Michael. Unbelievable work. Grab the hammer. Grab the hammer. That nail has been put in the motherfucking coffin. Also, good to see you, Mama's Black Sheep.
The other thing is we started this brand new nonprofit organization right here in Middle Tennessee called Secular Rising US. SecularRisingUS.org. Very easy. If you're in the Middle Tennessee,
SR, right? Of course, he's a fucking narcissist. Of course, he named his organization SR, Secular Rarity. Started an organization called Secular Rising. It's all right there in front of your face.
area, and you want to get connected to a group that's under this umbrella, that's doing these things, man, we are the place to go. Hit us up, check us out. And as we continue to grow, it's in the name, US, baby. This is a nationwide thing. We are already talking with groups across the country, and we are fucking.
And so Michael has delusions of grandeur, noun, phrase, a false belief that one possesses exceptional importance, power, wealth, or ability far beyond what reality supports, often a symptom of certain psychiatric conditions such as narcissistic personality disorder, right? So here he is bragging about his organization and how they're starting a movement and they're taking over, and they ain't doing none of that, bro. You ain't doing nothing but hosting some grifty ass fucking conference in Nashville for y'all, for a little kink group, a little cult kink group to get together and do some weirdo freaky sex shit because of your hedonism. And he wants to act like his hedonism is a movement. Nigga, you bitch nigga, this motherfucker wouldn't know where to start when it comes to the type of work it requires to really like start a fucking movement. Get the fuck out of here, right? This motherfucker thinks he's MLK because dumbass liberal white women on YouTube think he's fucking cute because of his dirty ass with his dirty ass long hair and all of this shit. So a couple of dumbass liberal white bitches on YouTube think he's fucking cute. Now he thinks he's starting a fucking movement. That's the delusions of grandeur. Nigga, you ain't doing shit but pushing bitches down, pushing women. Shouldn't call it ain't one bitch, but you pushing women down the stairs. Then we got your previous victim telling us who you really the fuck are. You ain't starting no goddamn movement, fucking freak.
We continue to grow. It's in the name, US, baby. This is a nationwide thing. We are already talking with groups across the country, and we are fucking thrilled because this is what we're doing, man. There is a wave. There is a growing movement. It is rising, you know, and it's not going to stop. It's absolute fucking bullshit because you giving $5 is one of the best things ever. I don't know if I'm there yet. Yeah. I am your host, the secular Jesus Christ. I appreciate all of you. And there's so many people on board with this, and you can help in so many freaking ways, you know.
What is the type of narcissism in which the narcissistic person gets their narcissistic supply?
The narcissist who hides behind being a good person. This is from Dr. Ramani, and she is a expert on narcissists, makes a lot of great YouTube content.
From doing good things for other people, being viewed as virtuous. And
again, like, the legitimacy is that she is a known content creator in the world of narcissism. And like, I know a lot of these narcissist content creators, right? Because again, I dealt with narcissistic abuse. And so you have to read about narcissism. You have to, start to really understand what the professionals say. And you start to participate. I participated in a Quora group and a Reddit group. I even paid for Quora's premium. I paid money. People think it's a fucking game. I paid money for Quora, right? Because there's a certain way, like, I don't know, there's a certain limit to how you interact with Quora, right? Like when you go to read something, you can read like so much of a thread or whatever. But if you're not really like a member, like you can't fully engage, right? I needed that shit. I needed those threads, those forums where other survivors of narcissistic abuse were really talking about what they had to deal with and what they had to go through. I needed that. I paid my fucking money so I could get that support, because that was a huge part of it for me, was being in these groups and hearing other people's stories, understanding what I was dealing with, and also understanding how lucky I was to get out before I had to deal with all the shit these other people was dealing with. But it helped me understand the real realities, not just what I had went through, but what I could have gone through or what others have gone through who are in these type of relationships for, way longer. I was only in the relationship with narcissists for like 6 months. I'm at month 5 or 6 in front of my fucking psychiatrist. Like, what the fuck is going on with my new girl, right? Now I'm thinking, holy shit, I'm so lucky it was 5 or 6 months, not 5 or 6 years. So lucky it wasn't 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. I'm reading stories of people that were in narcissistic marriages for 40, 50 years. Shit them people was going through break your heart 5 times in a day before you even had breakfast. Shit would break your heart 5 times over before you even had breakfast. That's how real it is. And so then you go to YouTube and you find the other motherfuckers who are the YouTube creators. And I can tell you there's 2 types. Like, a lot of people keep it super scientific and secular. They tend to be white, quite frankly. And then a lot of the content creators of color, especially like black people, a lot of times their shit is really popping too, as far as the narcissism and the mental health stuff. But then their shit gets a little spiritual, gets a little religious at times. And, that becomes a kind of a stumbling block for me. But I still try to lock in on what they're saying about narcissism and narcissistic abuse, because it's really important for me. But my point is, like, people who have really gone through this, they know Dr. Ramani. And I can even go through the nuance, right, of telling you, I know of her, I know some of her mutuals, and I even know the distinction between, people like her and some others who let the spiritual and the religious aspects kind of enter in at certain times versus the people who keep it secular. And I know that because I was in there for my survival. So now when we circle back, and, maybe we've looked at some of her stuff on this channel. I know we've covered different people talking about narcissism, and it's been a lot of streams, so I don't remember. But to circle back and now see, after I've talked about all this dark triad shit and all that shit with Elliot, and now see Michael, stitching Dr. Ramani here, instant credibility. And not just me, that's not just me saying that, that's me trying to tell y'all, the rest of y'all, motherfuckers who understand narcissistic abuse and these type of disorder traits also understand Dr. Ramani's content and how valuable it is to people dealing with that. Whether you agree with her spiritual, political presentation, none of that shit don't matter, because everybody know the shit she be dropping about that narcissism is for real. And, and so now here's Michael stitching her, and she's talking about the narcissist who hides behind being a good person. So understand, like, Michael doing that work, y'all. Michael is doing that work, and the results are quality. Michael is putting that work in, and the result is not just content that's just calling people names and Michael trying to make himself look good by calling people fancy sounding names. No, Michael is trying to give this community the fucking quality content and education so that they understand that the shit we've been trying to tell y'all is backed by the experts. Kudos to you, Michael.
Giving to others, as opposed to seeking out admiration, validation, and self-enhancement. So your choices are A, grandiose narcissism, B, malignant narcissism, C,
Wait, let me
communal
back up so you can hear
narcissism.
her
What is
whole
the
thing.
type of
Okay, here we go.
narcissism?
What is the
help
type
in
of
so many
narcissism?
freaking
That's where we
ways,
start.
you
Here we
know?
go.
What is the type of narcissism in which the narcissistic person gets their narcissistic supply from doing good things for other people, being viewed as virtuous, and giving to others, as opposed to seeking out admiration, validation, and self-enhancement? So your choices are A, grandiose narcissism, B, malignant narcissism, C, communal narcissism, D, vulnerable narcissism, E, self-righteous narcissism, F, all of the above, and G, none of the above. And the right answer is C, communal narcissism.
And that's right. I am your host, the secular Jesus Christ. I appreciate all of you for joining us today.
Right. So she's telling you the type of person that is a narcissist that gets over on this mask of altruism. Okay. It's a very specific thing. It's not all these other types of narcissism. It's not all the above. It's not just thrown around fancy terms. It's communal narcissist. And then when you look not just at Elliot and not just even at him being platformed, but the way he was platformed, what he was platformed over, how he was platformed, everything about his presence in this community over the last year has either been about one, community building, or two, secular leadership. So he has been positioned as the guiding light of community building and leadership. You have to see that communal narcissism because that's the same thing at play with pastors. And we know the community sees it with pastors, right? Pastors don't get over on people because they go up in the pulpit and say, I'm gonna fuck a bitch up. Let me try to pull up on one of these ladies and get my dick wet. And she says, Pastor, I'm not into it. I'm gonna push that bitch down the stairs, strangle her, slap her upside her fucking head, and remind her I'm the goddamn shepherd up in this bitch. He gonna get sat down. He ain't never gonna be allowed to preach anywhere in America ever again. So you know the abusive pastor don't keep it real. How does the abusive pastor gain access to his victims? But ask yourself, more important question, how does a pastor become in a position where they are shielded from the accountability of their victimization? Boom, communal narcissism. He's the man of God. He's the counselor. He's the community builder. He's the leader. He's the one you should follow. He's the one you should be loyal to. He's the one who should always get the benefit of the doubt. He's the one under attack from the devil. So you can't just go after him because you heard a rumor he did something bad. You have to understand that's really the devil trying to undermine the great glorious work of God that he's trying to do. What did this community say about Elliot Martin? He's not a predator. He's not unsafe. He doesn't have dangerous, narcissistic, potentially antisocial personality traits. He's not dangerous. Dr. Bundy's dangerous. The educator is dangerous. No, SR is the community builder. He's the leader. He's the one you should be loyal to. He's the one you should be following. Disgusting.
So dark pride is really interesting. It is a set of traits that are associated with individuals who, for example, commit crimes, who are escape or con artists, who essentially
tag team back again, party on in history. Always love to see Wayne. Appreciate you, bro. Thanks for your help, Wayne. We out here, Wayne. It's over for him, dog. They're not gonna admit it, dog, but it's over for him. You know what I'm saying? Michael went back into the archives and found where SR and one of the people he founded Secular Rising US with said on air on YouTube that they are bringing back NanoCon. So we now know that Elliot Martin's organization, Secular Rising, that he founded, is basically the founding organization of NanoCon. We have suspected this for quite some time, but thanks to Michael, we have been able to confirm it, and signed, sealed, delivered. The conflict of interest, the corruption, the inside baseball, the cover up, it's all obvious now because it's all a conflict of interest from the top down. The internal investigator was basically working for Elliot's organization. The NanoCon board was basically working, you know, in it with Elliot's organization, and none of these people recused themselves. Michael's just done excellent work here. God damn, I don't know how much bullshit he had to fucking sit through to you know, find that stream and capture that. But congratulations, Michael. Just huge work, and wouldn't be here if it wasn't for people like fucking Wayne with his amazing website. Wayne, your website also prompted them to do their website, which made them document their smear campaign and their propagandistic story of victim blaming. So just can't even express what a huge contribution that's been, also just making it easier for people to understand what's happening. So hey, we're a small group of people over here, just a bunch of individuals trying to do the right thing, but holy shit, we're getting results.
Eventually end up in the justice system one way or another.
I know a bunch of police officers in my city, and they are solid, good, humanist people.
To make things fit together inside, I was doing sexual probings and things.
Says the man who lawyered up before he was even arrested or charged for anything. The cops are so great where he's buddy with him, but for some reason, boy, he had to lawyer up before they even hit him up. Interesting.
I mean, in the sense of striking out and reaching out and grabbing and pulling to me, but appalled at the sense that it wasn't working. That isn't the way it's supposed to be. It isn't the way I want it.
And a lot of our research is derived from individuals who eventually found their ways
Me too,
to jail
Wayne,
or
me
prisons. But over the years, we have found that these individuals are also found in what we call community populations. This means that they're not necessarily in the justice system in any way, but in the community, they're wreaking some havoc.
There it is. They're not in the justice system because that white privilege is a motherfucker. Because if my black ass did that, oh, I would have been in the justice system that night, and so would he have. How sweet it is to be loved by you, by you, by you. Boy, when them white people like you, boy, real shit hit differently, don't it? But nevertheless, whether he's in the justice system currently or not, he remains a presence in this community and a motherfucking problem. And don't let these people let him slip out the back door now. Now that we fucking pinned them down, now that we've fucking shown them how fucked up this shit has been from the beginning. Oh, he's not a speaker at this year's NanoCon. Oh, we don't have him on that channel anymore. Oh, we don't have any more appearances with him scheduled. Do never let these people forget they spent a year platforming this man. RFR, ACA, The Line with their fucking cover-up fundraiser for RFR and all their hosts fucking piling on the goddamn victim. Gross. Skeptic Haven and all these smaller content creators spent a year telling everybody he was a community builder and a secular leader.
You know, I'm Southern as fuck. My family has been in this goddamn
There it
country
is,
for
Wayne.
400
Teach them the
years.
math.
That is not a show. We have the goddamn records from the Syndicate.
Oh,
Little family.
look at him. Literally boasting of blood and soil, y'all. You wonder why we call these people MAGA. You wonder why we call these people MAGA.
Havoc.
Boasting of blood and soil, y'all. Boasting of blood and soil.
I'm Southern as fuck.
My family has been in this goddamn country for 400 years in the South.
Nigga, I'm black as fuck. My family was kidnapped and brought to this country. Eat a dick. Eat a dick, white boy. My family was kidnapped and dragged to this country, possibly on a slave ship named Jesus. Eat a dick.
That is not a show. We have the goddamn records from the Civil War that split on family.
The communal narcissistic person. It's a unique form of narcissism, sort of talked about by Gebauer back in 2003. Talked about this idea of a narcissist who gets their supply and self-enhances by doing good, being good, showing caring and compassion and helping and doing the right thing and virtue signaling and being viewed as a humanitarian. You might be thinking, like, what's wrong with that? We'll get to that. Now, this is different, obviously, than the typical narcissistic patterns where the validation seeking and self-enhancement is all about them, people noticing them, not necessarily about what they're doing for others. Yeah, like I said, many people initially might look at this particular form of narcissism and think, hey, what's the problem? Well, the problem is that you still got all the narcissistic goodies, right? They still need the validation. They still need to be reminded of their humanitarianness, of their goodness. Gosh, you're so amazing. You care so much. You really care. You're such a giver.
And that's right. I am your host, the secular Jesus Christ. This is the whole
Like,
focus.
I have little tiny presences online. That's where I am.
Right.
You know?
And again, this is Helen Green, who's literally like contacting my mentors and like trying to get me fired for saying Rocky quotes on YouTube. Ridiculous. But that's who these NANOCON people are. It's like, that's what it is. Like, this is him talking to his homegirl. And yeah, his homegirl, who's one of the leaders of the Creator Accountability Network. Yes. His homegirl, Helen, is one of the leaders of the Creator Accountability Network. You know, the same Creator Accountability Network that told Patti to kick rocks when she told them what happened. Yeah, well, also one of their leaders went after me and tried to get me fired for covering what happened to her sister. Again, that's how rotten this community is that that's the type of behavior happening from the leadership of the Creator Accountability Network. You couldn't make this shit up. You couldn't write a Hollywood script like this. If you wrote a Hollywood script like this, it's like the Trump shit, right? If you wrote a Hollywood script like this where the president was as evil as Trump, they tell your ass you can't put that in a movie theater. It's too unrealistic. People will never believe that. That's what we mean when we say the truth is stranger than fiction. This is like the Trump shit. That's why there's another reason we compare them to MAGA. Because if we wrote some shit where the godless atheists were just wantonly covering up sex crimes and protecting white boy predators, and people in leadership positions of organizations were on one hand bragging about their moral superiority to churches, and then on the other hand trying to get black professors fired for covering up sex crimes, they'd be like, nah, that's a bit too far. You're characterizing atheists a bit much. I mean, we're pretty Christian around here in America, but nah, I mean, that's a bit too. Don't you think that's a bit much?
But I'll show up to an event because y'all want to see me anyway. Because I'm going to be at that cruise and we're all going to get really drunk together. It's going to be amazing.
We're going to have a great fucking time.
Right? They have all that, and then they have the entitlement and the grandiosity and all of that. And like all narcissistic folks, they may not be so nice to people or so carey or so givey when
I
there
appreciate
isn't
that, Steph.
body,
Good to see you.
basically, when their
Hope you're having a great
stuff
summer,
isn't
huh?
on display. The usual stuff, all the usual stuff, like I said, of narcissism is going to be present in these folks. The marginal empathy, the entitlement, the dysregulation, the selfishness. And it doesn't always compute if you don't quite understand what you're looking at. But unlike the average narcissistic person who gets validation by self-enhancing, these folks get it by sort of doing for the other and being perceived as great for doing for the other. Now, the most extreme and severe version of the communal narcissist is the cult leader, extolling and talking nonsense about self-development, and they want to save the world and all the people in it and have them help them all evolve to another plane, and wanting to sacrifice themselves to make the world a better place. while simultaneously exploiting and manipulating the people within that system. Now, as you can imagine, this type of narcissism, the communal narcissism, it's tough to spy. It's often missed by people, often until it's too late.
Our guest really shouldn't even need an introduction.
I am your host,
Secular
the
community
secular
building
Jesus
from
Christ.
RFR.
Honored to be had here with Elliot. Elliot is also known as Secular Rarity, is a secular community builder. And we'll get into more of what that means here in a bit.
Michael said, if you support Elliot, if you don't remove content, if you make more content, you are culpable for the next rape or attempted rape.
Who has worked with many different organizations over the years. He's the founder and current president of Secular Rising US.
She's one of several people who did. She's one of several people who did. She was a person who used their legal name that we know them by. Some of these other people, I either don't know who they are, or they were using aliases, but she's one of the people. There were a few, at least a few.
Which frankly has some amazing swag.
Not even sure I've seen all of them, to be honest.
And is a nonprofit dedicated to connecting and supporting atheists, humanists, and secular-minded people.
All right, so I'm gonna just leave it with y'all like this. It's over. It's over. It's over. It's been over, really. It's been over. It was over a year ago, but it's definitely over. It's over. Like, his organization brought back NANOCON. Like, come on now. The organization he founded brought back NANOCON. He's the host and the organizer. Like, this was the Elliot Martin show. This was the Elliot Martin show. His organization brought back NANOCON, which means he's intimately involved and he's got official ties and associations with Secular Rising and everybody in it. And since they're the ones who brought back NANOCON, everything that happened was the fruit of a poisonous tree. There was a conflict of interest from the very, very beginning. And, anybody that doesn't see that at this point, it's just motivated reasoning. It's just these same people who are building this mythology around Nancy and her sex life and her marriage and Patti and the other whistleblowers and myself. Like, it's over. Like, it's just fucking over, because all there is now is you guys refusing to acknowledge what the whole world can see. There was clearly a conflict of interest. This was clearly corrupt. Obviously, all of these people should have recused themselves, and obviously they should have called the cops. And now we see a clear conflict of interest that makes it very apparent why. And again, for anybody that wants to continue to make excuses, it's like the only excuse would have been if they did it. Right? You got you have to understand how adulthood works. If you do the right thing, you can always rest your hat on you did the right thing. But y'all didn't do the right thing. Be so fucking for real. The victim wrote a 10-page notarized statement. We don't give a fuck what y'all talking about. The victim wrote a 10-page notarized statement and said she was pushed down the stairs, sexually assaulted, and strangled. Cops should have been called. But they weren't. An internal investigation is not an adequate response, and there were clear conflicts of interest, and those people should have recused themselves, but they didn't. So the call wasn't made when it should have been. An internal investigation was done when it should not have been. The people involved in that internal investigation did not recuse themselves when they clearly should have. And since there was no one else around to do it, takes you right back to point number one, which is why the authorities should have been called from the very beginning. So since y'all failed at every single step. And now we have clearly documented the conflict of interest. In addition to all the corruption and the coercion and the harassment and the doxing and the manipulation and the stalking and the interfering in our lives and occupations, it's over. Because you can't fail at a situation and then also have a clear conflict of interest and then also participate in the cover up and then be like, oh, well, you can't prove that we did it because, like, get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. You cannot expect people to just look the other way. You put yourself in this situation. You didn't do the right thing, and there's a conflict of interest, and y'all have done nothing but victim blame, slut shame, and harass the whistleblowers and the people covering this. That's obviously indicative of a cover up to any sane, rational, normal adult. Had you done the right thing, you could just say, well, yeah, it may look like there was a conflict of interest and it may look like it, but actually we called the fucking cops and we told Elliot he was no longer welcome at NANOCON and we sent him home. And then nobody has seen him, spoken to him, or platformed him since. We'd be having an entirely different conversation. Matter of fact, we wouldn't be having this conversation at all. We'd be saying, Elliot did some real fucked up shit at last year's NANOCON, but yeah, the NANOCON people, they handled it. They called the police. Elliot was held accountable. We don't really, not quite sure what happened to him, but he's not around anymore. By the way, Nancy is still hosting the Apostate Sisters Channel with her sister Patti, and things are going great over there. And I hear they're going to give a dynamic speech this year about how Nancy was assaulted at last year's NANOCON by Elliot, but the community rallied around Nancy and everything was just so fucking wonderful and the blase and the Glavinoids. And now Nancy and Patti are back at NANOCON 2026 for a motherfucking victory lap. But that's not what happened, is it? That is not what happened, is it? So just keep being silent. Just keep not saying anything. We see exactly what is going on now. Quite frankly, we always have. Like I said, I've been pretty sure this is exactly what the situation was since December. And those that had conversations with me in December will remember me telling them this, that you gotta remember it's very, very possible that Elliot was instrumental in organizing all of this and putting all this together. And we got him on tape telling everybody his organization is bringing back NANOCON. It's over. We'll see you next time.